Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Sports. I am Ralph LaBella.
And I'm Ron Sen. And today we're going to lead off with coaches behaving badly. First, we have to examine the Ohio State Buckeyes and Urban Meyer, the coach named after a pope. Well, his behavior has been anything but saintly, as apparently starting back in 2009, he had an assistant who may have been involved with domestic violence. Subsequently happened again in 2015, and the assistant's also related to Meyer's mentor, Earl Bruce. It's getting more and more complicated. Meyer's alleged to have lied to the press about when the problems began and whether he reported it, and Ohio State's conducting an internal investigation, and Meyer's on paid administrative leave.
Yeah, you wonder, at the beginning when it first happened, you would think that he'd want to look at the police report if there was one. If the police went to the home or wherever it happened, that's a key. If the police did go there, you can always look at the reports as public knowledge. So and that's what I would look at. And then if something did occur, he's suspended with pay until he's guilty. You know, whatever happens. Sometimes they plea out and they get dismissed on whatever. But if you get a police report that says something did happen where he struck an individual, he's suspended with pay. You don't know if it could have been a push or whatever.
Right.
And then from there you go forward.
I guess the big question is, Meyer presumably reported this to his superior, the Ohio State athletic director, but the question is what he knew and when he knew it, and it's totally muddied. And then recently there was a report by an author, Snook, in The Athletic, who said both the accused mother and the wife's mother both thought that she was lying and there was never any domestic violence. So it's really not clear at all what's going on, and that it's going to be hard to really sort this out.
Oh yeah, it is a tough situation. I mean, if there are marks, bruises, if in the police report it says, yeah, she was crying, stuff like that, then you have to suspend them. Then you let them go through the legal process. Like I said earlier, sometimes there's no legal process.
Well, the coach is now resigned. He's not involved. So the question is, what's Meyer's fate? And I have no idea. I don't think you can really make any even educated guess. Certainly there's been a tremendous amount of controversy in the press. There's been fan gatherings in Columbus in support of Meyer. Tara Sullivan wrote a long column in the Globe yesterday saying Meyer's not the victim. Zach Smith's wife, Courtney Smith, is the victim. Frankly, I don't think we know. We're probably going to still be left with a lot of questions no matter how this comes out.
Yeah, you just investigate it, and then what happens, happens.
Right. But that's, as bad as that is, what's going on at the University of Maryland and their football program is even worse. Jordan McNair, a lineman who was 325 pounds, died during practice at the end of May from heat exhaustion. The players were running 110-yard sprints in the heat, and supposedly a toxic culture led by coaches who are in players' faces with fear and intimidation is what's alleged. Multiple coaches, including the head coach, DJ Durkin, are on suspension, and there's just as much negativity surrounding a program as is humanly possible.
Yeah, you know they're gone. All the coaches are gone, not just the head coach. There's going to be a huge lawsuit. Maryland's going to have to be paying big monies, and I think they should prosecute the head coach. I really do.
Well, it's really incumbent on coaches to understand the impact of heat and humidity on players. For example, last week on Tuesday, when we normally have some voluntary workouts, it was 94 degrees in the sun. And I looked up, at 87 degrees in the sun, it's 131 degrees on the asphalt. So I imagine if it's in the mid-90s, then it must be 140 or 145 degrees on the asphalt. And I can't see subjecting kids to that, or myself, just because you're really not going to be able to get much benefit under those conditions. And the risk to players is just too high.
Yeah, you think what these coaches are thinking about. You look at it and say, 106, it was 106 degrees, right, his temperature?
His temperature.
When he got to the hospital? I mean, that's completely ridiculous. You know, you wonder why the players don't complain.
Well, one of the early days I was at Bethesda Naval Hospital as a student, there was a story about a youngster who came in from the Naval Academy. I don't remember what year he was, and he had run a like 10K on July 4th, and he came in and his temperature was 108. He had kidney failure and liver failure, and he did live, but he was just extraordinarily sick. And you know, our bodies are really only able to function within a relatively narrow range of core temperature. So it's just, no matter how much you're drinking, it's not going to be enough when you're burning up so many calories in the intense heat.
And the athletic director is going to be in trouble too. You got to think that. I mean, he's got to look over, knowing that it's hot out, that hot. There has to have been complaints to him about the coaches, and to let something like that go, it's unreal.
And then there's other incidents. Supposedly, players were either being demeaned because they were too thin or they were too heavy. Players that were too heavy were forced to watch other players eat and were being told to eat candy bars continuously at that time. Players that were deemed too thin were observed eating, sometimes to the point that they threw up. So it's just not a situation where there's any adults running the program, or at least the allegations seem to be that there's not enough adult supervision. The coach came from Michigan, where I believe he was a defensive coordinator, and he was trying to put his stamp on the program as far as being tough. But there's a difference between being tough and being stupid. I mean, that's all you can say.
That is a shame. But again, you know, do they evaluate these coaches when they come in? I mean, they don't even watch them. You know, you really think about it. What's the athletic director doing during those practices, knowing the heat's, you know, it's over 90 degrees? Is he coming out to make sure that the practices are going right? And in that case, you know, he didn't supervise. I mean, I would be there watching the practices and making sure, you know, you worry about the students.
Sure. Well, you know, and you'd think that if you're the athletic director, it's in your best interest to make sure that there's control in your program. Not only compliance with NCAA rules, but just common sense. So, two stories to watch closely. On a more positive note, in the PGA this weekend, really remarkable golf and the resurgence of Tiger Woods, who's been out of really the limelight for years, and how his back is going to hold up over the long term. He finished second to Brooks Koepka, who was a phenomenal young golfer who's won 3 majors already at a young age. And Woods is now 11th in the Ryder Cup standings and is likely to be a captain's selectee for the Ryder Cup. So Woods has come back from serious back and knee problems. Yesterday his putting was phenomenal, and he missed 2 other close putts that could have gone in. You know, I mean, I don't think we have to feel badly for Tiger Woods. He's had a remarkable career, but it was really great golf and fun to watch.
What do you have, 10 putts in the first 9 holes?
I think on the front 9 he just had 9 putts. I mean, he didn't hit a fairway on the front 9 and still was 3 under, I think.
They were going nuts for him too, the fans. They were all supporting him. I mean, I was rooting for Thomas, number 1. He backed off a little, had some bad breaks, especially in the final back 9. But Koepka he feels no pressure. He's never going to choke.
He looks like a weightlifter. He's
unbelievable.
Gigantic body.
I don't know if he played football or what I heard, but I mean, he's unreal. He doesn't feel the pressure. You know, everybody else feels it. Well, you know, Tiger didn't feel it yesterday.
I mean, he didn't make a lot of putts on the final day, but his approaches were incredible as far as how close he was to the pin.
Who are you rooting for? Were you rooting for Tiger or?
I was just rooting for good golf.
Yeah.
You know, I imagine there's a lot of players on the tour who are still envious about Tiger and saying, why is he getting all this attention? And My
He's
answer,
bringing the money in.
my answer, exactly. That's why the purses are, well, I think the total
2
bill
million, was it?
it was 11 million for the entire tournament, and the winner gets 18%. So it's about $2 million. So you should be kissing the ground Tiger walks on, because he brought the money into the sport.
Oh, and he's bringing it back too. It's
Yeah.
all about him, really.
TV ratings were up 69% yesterday.
But it's all about him. I would say 90% of the fans were rooting for him. You know, even Koepka's girlfriend went up to him and gave him a big hug. I think it's his girlfriend. I don't think it's his wife.
No, I don't think so.
But she went up to him. So everybody really likes him a lot. They want him to do well. But, you know,
Well, he and Tiger look like they're good buddies at the end. I mean, at that level, it's not really personal.
all the young golfers love him. Like they all say, their dream is to go one-on-one with him in the last day in a major.
Well,
you know?
a lot of these young guns are really terrific players, and they have no weaknesses in their game. I mean, Tiger, if he can ever get his stroke back so he can put it in the fairway.
I'll tell you, he's getting it though. He's got to be so. He was really happy, even though he ended up in second.
Right.
That the last hole he birdied with a nice putt too, right?
Well, in any professional sport, the goal is to be relevant and then stay relevant once you get to the top. And certainly Tiger did that.
You always root for someone who was down, did something stupid, and hopefully he's doing the right thing now. You always root for someone who was as great as he was. Now, they all hope that he gets back.
Well, if we look at local sports, there's a rumor, and I don't know whether it's confirmed or unsubstantiated, but Melrose All-State tailback Isaac Seed apparently is going to enroll in Everett and play in the Everett football program. Seed, of course, helped lead Melrose to a state championship in football and also won the state championship in wrestling. So phenomenal athlete, well-liked, and there must be some story behind this if it's true, but we're only a few weeks away from fall practice opening.
I was shocked when I heard that. I mean, we remember him as a sophomore, playing on the high school team and playing cornerback and coming in as like the fourth running back. And, then with his last year, he just improved so much. Then we were looking forward to this year. He would have been probably one of the top two backs in the state.
Yeah, not only is he shifty and fast, he had real good power, so he could run inside or out.
He's a good kid too, I hear.
That's what everyone says, and he has already had an offer for a scholarship at UNH. So,
but what would you think? Why would he go back to Everett? I mean, they say he's from there, but
right. So maybe he wanted to play with some of his friends that he grew up with. That's all I can think.
Yeah, that's kind of tough. You're with your teammates for 3 years from Melrose. You've improved. You worked the weight room, excellent coaching staff. You got a chance to go back to back, and now he's going to go to Everett. Now Everett's lost some good players. Maybe that's one of the reasons. They lost some good players when DiBiase left.
And they have a new coach.
And they have a new coach, Pierre, is it?
I'm
A
not
guy,
sure.
he used to play for them, and I know that he was trying to get the other players to stay, and I guess they liked that when they hired him. But that's tough. It's got to be tough for Melrose. It's great for Everett.
Well, there's always a backstory. We'll see if it ever comes out.
But one other thing though, Ron, in that, you're going to Everett. You're going to be playing the best teams in the state.
Right.
So you got to think of him mentally. He's confident that he can go up against those players. So that's one thing you think. You stay in Melrose, basically you're going to go against the same type of players you've gone against the last 2 years where you're successful. Now you're going to go up against the BC Highs, Xaverians,
right.
all the top teams in the state. And how good is your offensive line? Usually they're pretty good, but if he doesn't have a great offensive line, he could get beat up playing in that schedule.
Well, and the Everett used to be in the Greater Boston League for football. Maybe I don't know if they still are. I think a lot of other teams switched out of the GBL into other leagues because they didn't want to face Everett.
Malden still plays them. I know that.
Okay.
Every year.
So I don't fault other teams for not wanting to get run over by Everett. Same things I think happened in the past with Groton At one point, Groton out in Central Mass had 7 Division I scholarship athletes. Somehow they were able to attract elite talent. And some of the other schools felt it was unsafe to play them because they were so big and physical.
Yeah.
So it's understandable. Now, as far as during your summer, you have a lot of options for media. Probably number one being free is ESPN and ESPN Online. Number two is a relative newcomer, BostonSportsJournal.com, which is run by Greg Bedard and has been around for just over a year, has almost 9,000 subscribers, and they have a online presence with all major Boston sports teams, as even the Revolution, if you want to count them. And they have very talented writers like Sean McAdam, Chris Price, Greg Bedard, Brian Robb does the Celtics. So they always have fresh articles pretty much every day. And then the latest competitor is the national, The Athletic, which gives you pretty much encyclopedic information on every major team from every major city, and it's a pretty remarkable site. Boston Sports Journal is $35 a year or $299 lifetime, and The Athletic is $5 a month right now, although sometimes you can get deals for cheaper. And they have a lot of great sports news for those people who really feel compelled to consume a lot of sports news.
Do you go on all those sites?
Sadly, I do.
I don't have time to go on any of them. At night, I like to watch NBC Sports. I like that station. You know, at times I'll go on that, and you know, that's where I get my sports fix. I get my newspaper every day. Read at lunchtime and work.
Well, you probably talk sports with the guys at work.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
And the ladies at work.
Yeah. You know, two of them are always coming up to me, and sometimes I have to help them out with the players from the new players on the Patriots. You know, because one of them goes out with a guy, and she likes sports, and she goes, "Who are the new players?" She's going to go watch the first game, scrimmage. You know, and I tell her about, you know, the draft picks win, but he's probably not going to play because he had a shoulder injury. And Michelle is out. Who's it, Dobson? Is it Dobson, the
Duke Dawson.
Dawson. Was he number 37 in that game?
I don't know what number
37 looked real good in that game. But, you know, they like to talk sports, Celtics. One of them has season tickets to the Celtics, one of the females.
Well, sports is the closest thing to a religion around here. And, you know, I guess most of us grew up watching baseball, and you have the feeling that you know as much as the manager does. This year, it seems like the manager knows more than the manager's known in other years.
I'm impressed.
But we're going to get back to that shortly. Coming up next, you'll have a little commentary on Mookie Betts from Lou.
So, Boston Red Sox, you're already charging your fans an arm and a leg anyway. I mean, how much does it cost for a hot dog? Let's be honest. You're charging 10 times the package value for one dog. And that's not even including the bun. But that's not what this is about. Concessions, foods. You know what this is about? Pay Mookie Betts. You know what I'm saying? Like, back the Brinks truck up. Give him what he wants. Give him the truck. Give him the driver. The uniform, too. Everything. We're talking Goldfinger, Fort Knox. You know why? You're never going to see a guy like that in right field. It's once in a lifetime. We're never going to see a guy like that again. How long did it take us to get to White Evans' replacement? And let me tell you, Evans could never hit like that. And Evans, I'll tell you, he was a great outfielder. He had a great arm. But come on, let's look at Mookie. I mean, the guy hits 300 average. He's going to give you 30-plus home runs, maybe 40. 100 RBI. Who else is going to do that? And so, throw in he's a 20-base stealer, run like a gazelle, catch everything kind of player. And if it wasn't for Bradley in center field, he would be the greatest outfielder we ever saw. We're talking Freddie Lynn. But let's be serious. This is the Red Sox. You want to compete with the Yankees? You want to compete with all these other teams? We know you're going to outspend everybody. We don't want to see Mookie in pinstripes, do we? Because let's face it, anybody is going to want this kid. So instead of worrying about renaming streets around the stadium, or instead of wondering about how you look to the TV crowd, Sign him. He's a good-looking guy. He's got a great smile, and he's 5'8". He's short like me. That's another reason I love the guy. Why do you think half of Boston has a man crush on the guy? Sign him, for God's sakes. That's all I'm saying here. Okay, so that's what this whole rant is about. Mookie, sign him. Brinks truck, Goldfinger. Know what I'm saying?
Welcome back. Boston sports fans, just pinch yourself because here we are on August 13th and the Red Sox are 50 games over 500. Baltimore is already eliminated, which is inconceivable, and the Red Sox are the favorite to at least come out with the #1 seed going into the postseason. I think that would leave most likely the Yankees and Oakland playing off in the play-in game, and I think then it would be Houston and the Yankees in the first round, and the Red Sox and Cleveland.
No, it'd be the Red Sox and the Yankees. They changed that.
I thought you couldn't play the same team.
No, you could. They changed that rule. Now it's the #1 team with the best record playing the team that comes out of the
play-in game?
Yeah, so it would be the Red Sox and Yankees now.
Okay. All right, that's good to know. How much credit should go to Alex Cora? At the end of the day in baseball and every other sport, it's the players. How kind of season they have. Last year they had several injuries, which I think were underplayed. Bogarts had hurt his hand after he got hit by a pitch. Betts had a bad thumb. There certainly was a certain tension in the clubhouse with John Farrell, who I don't think was a great communicator with young players. And Cora comes in, fresh attitude, bilingual, and the younger players obviously feel comfortable, and seems like Cora gives guys rest on a regular basis, and they've been very fortunate to come out of these with no damage, probably because there's so many bad teams that you get to play.
Well, I'm really impressed with Cora and the team, even though I'm not happy with the Red Sox winning so much. But you got to be impressed with Cora. You know, he talks to the players before every game. They go over batting. I see him talking to them during games when a new pitcher comes in. He's totally locked in. He's confident, coming from Houston last year. I think he's doing a terrific job. And I told you the thing about the Hispanic relationship. That's got to be great for the team. You know, you have an Hispanic coach coming in, taking charge of the team, doing a great job. You know, those players, there are a lot. I would say there's more than half of them.
Well, it seems that.
But it's not only the Hispanic players. The other players love playing with him too.
Well, it seems that everybody gets a chance. I mean, if you watch the games, the bullpen is out there for extent. It seems that the weakest part of the team is the bullpen, even though they have the 4th lowest ERA in the American League. That seems almost impossible based on what your eyes tell you lately. But the starting pitching has done unbelievably well, even though Eovaldi got racked the other day, and Brian Johnson, I don't know how he can get anybody out.
But let me ask you a question. I feel, getting back to Hispanic manager, I feel that the Hispanic players got to feel a lot of pride playing for a guy like Cora, another Hispanic. Really, I really got to feel, and even fans like me who don't like the Red Sox, I see that. I'm really impressed with Cora, and I really feel good. And I shouldn't. I should feel good for everybody, but I really feel good for those players playing for him, like Martinez. I mean, he's got to go in there feeling great.
Well, I think that if you look through the history of baseball, there's been a lot of issues with minorities getting opportunities. You don't see a lot of, if there are a lot of minority players who are marginal, they don't get the break. I mean, you see all through baseball that, I don't know if you want to say nepotism, that there are always players that get an opportunity. Haywood Sullivan's son, when he was playing. Torey Lavella's son is up at Double-A, and one of these guys who hits 200 at every level. You always seem that it's like in life. Some people get more chances than others, whereas other players have to battle their way to get an opportunity. I mean, Martinez was not a star for the years in his career, and now obviously he's potentially an MVP candidate, outside chance at a Triple Crown. He's about, I think, 17, 18 points behind Mookie Betts in batting average and leading the majors in home runs and RBIs. And it's nice to see the team doing so well. A certain amount of skepticism is always going to exist because they're going to say the pitchers haven't pitched well in the postseason and guys like Bogarts and Betts haven't hit well in the postseason. So you always have a chance to prove yourself.
But getting back to that, Martinez and Betts, I mean, if you're really looking at it, a lot of people that vote aren't looking at it the same way we do. You got Martinez who's really put that team together. I mean, he's unbelievable. I mean, how can you not root for a guy like him? Even me as a Yankee fan, I watch him. I watch how classy he is, type of hitter he is. I see him when he gets up at bat. And I always talk that when I coach my kids in Babe Ruth. I said, you got to get up there. You can't have any pressure on you. You got to be nice and calm. Take a deep breath. You watch Martinez every time he comes up. Right, like takes a deep breath. He's so calm. He's so locked in. And he's got all the other players thinking that way now.
Well, and to be small differences make big outcomes in a sport like baseball where there's not so much of a talent difference. Now, the Red Sox have the highest payroll, so to say that they're somehow overachieving isn't really fair because they've got a lot of high-priced players who are expected to produce. But you can't be tight, and it's not like in baseball that you can try harder and do better.
If you're tight, forget about it.
Yeah.
Basically, as a hitter, if you're tight, you're not going to be a good hitter.
Yeah, you got to try easier.
You got to be loose. You got to be very loose. You actually have to hold the bat loose, not to grip it tight.
Well, and
because you lose your quickness.
The Red Sox game the other night in Baltimore that they won 19-12, you could see the Orioles pitchers choking the ball and they couldn't throw strikes. They were just totally nervous.
Have you ever seen anything like yesterday with Seal pitching?
Oh.
The Baltimore players were getting up there like, there's no way I'm going to hit the ball. 12 strikeouts in 5 innings?
Well, there was a lot of what I'd call little league swings where the guy commits that he's going to swing before the pitch is thrown.
It was unbelievable. Some pretty good hitters, too.
Well, Sale has been incredible in his last dozen outings or so. He leads the league in ERA. I think he still leads in strikeouts, even though he's missed some time. And, you know, hopefully he'll be rested for the playoffs. As you spoke about before, the Red Sox burned out Porcello and overused Sale in the past, so maybe they've learned from their previous mistakes.
Well, here's going to be the biggest key, Ron. The biggest key is going to be, are they going to go for the record and wins? If they go for the record and wins, it could cost them. But if they give someone like Price and Seal, even Seal looks so much stronger with that extra rest because of the sore shoulder. But if Price gets the extra rest going into the playoffs, they're going to have a huge advantage. But if they try to go for the record and he pitches every day, he's pitching between 80 and 100 pitches, you know, he's going to get that tired arm again.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to go for the record because it's kind of meaningless. I mean, there was a big discussion the other day about Mookie Betts and the cycle, and he was all excited even though they were losing. Well, to me, hitting for a cycle is a rarity. It's you know, you see a cycle less than you see no hitters, for example. I think Betts had the first cycle of the season the other day, and it doesn't. You can have bad players who hit for the cycle. The previous Red Sox hitter who hit for a cycle was Brock Holt. I remember growing up. This shows you how long ago it was. Most of you never heard of a guy named Jim Pagliarone. I think he hit the cycle one time, and you know nobody's ever heard of him. He was a journeyman catcher, but. You know, the Red Sox are more fun to watch. I mean, they made the Yankees look bad, especially against the running game. And, I mean, the Yankees were shorthanded. Obviously, Sanchez is out with a leg injury, and Judge still is having hand pain or wrist pain after his hit by pitch. I mean, I like watching Judge. Judge is fun to watch. He's a terrific outfielder. He hits with tremendous power, has pretty good selectivity, gets on base a lot with walks, even though he strikes out a lot. But and he's a classy kid. So, he's like Yankee fans can probably look at a guy like Pedroia when he was playing and say you can admire how he was playing, or you can admire how Betts plays. And I think Red Sox fans can look at guys like Gregorius and Judge and say they're talented players who put up good numbers.
Yeah, I mean, the Yankees, the key for the Yankees is Sanchez and Judge have got to come back strong. If they come back strong and Sanchez starts hitting, they're going to be tough. They could beat the Red Sox in the playoffs if they're healthy, if they come back and they're playing. But I told you a month and a half ago the Yankees weren't playing good baseball before Judge's injury and Sanchez, and they weren't. I think that Red Sox sweep may have finally gotten to them, and I think they must have had a talk and saying, listen, we're making terrible mistakes. They made us look like idiots on the bases, when we played them. And maybe if Sanchez is strong coming back, I mean, that lineup could still be very good, especially with Andujar and Torres in the back of that.
Anything can happen in the postseason. Houston has a phenomenal lineup.
They got big injuries, though.
Yeah, phenomenal starting pitching. Cleveland has Kluber and Bauer, two top-flight right-handed pitchers. And, as they say, momentum only lasts as long as tomorrow's starting pitcher.
Well, the advantage the Red Sox have is that Cleveland has to play Houston. Okay, that's the way it's going to go. And the Red Sox will play either Oakland or the Yankees or Seattle if they sneak in.
Yeah, and don't sleep on Oakland. They've had some incredibly productive hitters lately.
But I would bet that the Red Sox wouldn't get through Cleveland and Houston in those series.
Yeah, the Red Sox have had a bad record against Cleveland.
And if the Yankees end up going up against the Red Sox and they're still in this, win, 3 out of 5 and then lose 2 out of 3, which they've been doing, the Yankees, they're going against the Red Sox. The Red Sox are going to beat the Yankees, and then they'll only have to beat Houston or Cleveland. But to go up against Cleveland and Houston, if they're both playing good ball, I would bet that they wouldn't get by both of them.
Well, I wouldn't want to be betting on what's going to happen because I think
it's going to be unreal.
Right. I think there should be really good, interesting teams to watch.
But just think of this, Ron. If the Yankees are playing their best ball and the Red Sox are playing their best ball, that series is going to be unbelievable. And if Cleveland's playing great ball and Houston is playing, they're back, they get their players back. I mean, they're going to be some good baseball.
I mean, there's a lot of star power on all those teams.
Yeah.
Lindor and Martinez on the Indians are both terrific players. You have Altuve, Springer, just so many good players on Houston. And of course, the Yankees have a phenomenal lineup. A lot of young players who are going to be better for the experience no matter what happens
Sanchez
this year.
is going to be huge, though.
The guy who's performed better recently than expected is Jackie Bradley Jr.
Every year, Ron. It's the same every year. People say, how's he playing center field, playing so much? And then he gets hot. And then he looks like one of the best players in baseball. But you see that every year with him.
You'd think that a guy would be more consistently bad or consistently good. It takes something like 100 at-bats to establish your strikeout rate. And he did not fare well in his first 100 at-bats in the majors, and it takes about 1,000 to establish what kind of hitter you're going to be. And earlier this year he was hitting better than his average in the 175, 180 ranges, but now when he hits the ball the other way, then he does a lot better. I mean, like most players, Bradley and Devers are both vulnerable to hard stuff up. But if you get a starting pitcher who can throw 96, 97 up in the zone, they're going to get everybody out.
But you look at the way the Red Sox are playing now, the way they're hitting and pitching, how things are going so well with them. And the player who I think is going to be the key in the playoffs isn't even playing right now. Kisner.
Oh, Kinsler, yeah.
To pick him up.
Kinsler, yeah. Yeah, he obviously only played a couple of games before he injured his hamstring. He's another one of these guys who's got a lot of experience. He used to be kind of a 30-30 guy. He had good power. He's a very good defensive second baseman, much like Pedroia. You have to wonder about Pedroia. Is he done?
I don't think so. I mean, for the year he's done.
Well, done for...
No, he'll be back. He'll be back.
I don't know. I hope he's back.
He must be so aggravated. Imagine him being in that lineup healthy, batting second.
Right.
You know, and then you'd have Benintendi batting third and Martinez fourth. Imagine that, Betts, Pedroia, a healthy Pedroia.
Red Sox
Benintendi.
fans always need something to complain about, and the bullpen obviously is one. Is that it seems like they have a lot of guys who, when they come in and they're ahead by 3 runs, guys like Barnes and Kelly look like world beaters. But when it's close, it's a different story.
Now, I'm not saying all Red Sox fans, but there's a majority of Red Sox fans that are babies. They're babies. I told you about this lawyer friend of mine, right, who's the biggest Red Sox fan I know.
The
He's
90-year-old.
93. Andy. They could win 9 in a row and then lose one game. It's all Cora's fault.
Well,
Cora's.
I remember when I lived in Washington, the Redskins won 10 in a row, and then they lost a game, and the fans were screaming for Joe Gibbs' head. It's like, come on, you don't win every game.
So the Red Sox sweep the Yankees, right? I come into work, there's a broom on my desk. It's Andy. The Red Sox beat the Yankees 15-7 the first game. We were having a cookout. Every once in a while they have a cookout at lunchtime. So we're having a cookout. He brings a cake in. I'm sitting there. We got the session going. The judge knows it, right? He comes walking up, and he's got a cake. And it says 15-7. And he puts it on me. I mean, him and I have an unbelievable relationship, but he loves it, though. But 93, he loves the Red Sox.
Well, regardless of what happens during the baseball season, life is going to go on. So,
No, I laugh at it. I mean,
you know, I think that it's been a really fascinating season. Watching the golf tournament yesterday, it reminds me of this. I call it nerdvana. It's like every putt they had these lines that if you hit it, lag it up, or whether you hit it firm. And every drive, there's this red line that's marking in how high the ball goes.
But I love that when they drive it, though. Now you know where the ball's going.
And in baseball, it's all about exit velocity and launch angle now.
Oh, I know. They're showing that kid in Little League with his launch angle, the kid who has hit 5 homers.
So I think that technology intrudes on all aspects of our life. Sometimes it's really useful. Sometimes it's funny. I guess a lot of times it just finds a way to prove the obvious, that if you hit the ball harder and you hit it at the right angle, it's going to go farther. Gosh, I think we've rewritten the laws of physics all of a sudden.
Oh, it's unreal.
We'll be right back. There's no such thing as a sure thing. Last week, people who watched Felger and Maserati had to endure Felger saying that a mortal lock was the Redskins were going to cover with 3 points against the Patriots. So Felger was boasting that he was betting a king's ransom on the Redskins. And with the Patriots trailing 17-3 at the half, Felger must have been in the counting house preparing to buy his kids new shoes. But when the second and third and fourth stringers come in, you never know what's going to happen. So there's a lot of discussion about what the Patriots are going to be this year. It's too soon to know, but aside from Brady and Gronkowski, there's not a lot of star power on this team. And you have to wonder if the talent level is going to be high enough to carry them back to the AFC Championship again.
Well, they're going to have Brady, they'll have Edelman back, they have Gronk. They're going to have a good offensive line, better offensive line than people think, one of the top offensive lines in football. They're going to have one of the best defensive lines in football also. Linebackers I'm worried about. Hightower's got to stay healthy. Van Noy will be all right. I'm hoping Bentley, the rookie, looked pretty good in the scrimmage. I hope that, he keeps improving and he gets some playing time. And Roberts had a good game in that game. Maybe Roberts is coming into his own. I mean, he came up and made some good hits. He's always a good tackler, but he looked pretty good in that game. I mean, you're only looking at that game. And I didn't get all the numbers, but the one guy that impressed me was Tobin. He played left guard in that game, and he was opening up some big holes for Hill. Hill's big runs, and Ralphie's big runs. My new friend Ralph.
Ralph Webb from Vanderbilt is probably a chance to make the practice squad. He's kind of small. I think he's like 5'10", 190. So I don't think anybody's thinking he's got a chance.
But they got some running backs that are injured. I mean, Burkett's out too. I didn't even know he's out.
Yeah, he's kind of been injured a lot since he's been with the Patriots. And Michel obviously has had a knee problem. I think I was looking at some statistics. I think he's one of the top 10 all-time running back leaders in the SEC, which is saying a lot. But it doesn't help if you're hurt. As they say, you can't make the club from the tub.
You know, I was upset at Brady because of the summer program, the only quarterback not to show up. You know, but I was thinking about it today. I was saying, Brady has covered up for Belichick. Belichick has made so many mistakes over the years, and Brady's covered them all up. It's unbelievable what Belichick has done. You know, he lets Brissett go for, what was it, a number 3 pick? Even later, he lets Garoppolo go for a number 2 pick. I mean, come on, he lets Collins go. Listen to this. He lets Jones go, right? Mm-hmm. He traded Jones
for a number 2 pick.
For a number 2 pick, and Jones leads all of football in sacks since he let him go. But he's one of the highest paid defensive ends. So you got to think, a team that gets Jones, if they're going to make him the highest paid defensive end in football, they're going to just have to give up a 3 pick or a number 2 pick. If he's going to be you give up a number 1 pick. And then Collins, a number 3 pick.
Well, one of the things about the Patriots is when it comes to real dollars spent, they've been near the bottom of the league as far as their willingness to pay. So when guys are going to cash in like Cooks on the Rams or Jones or Collins, and who knows who the next person will be, then they're apt to send them off. And you don't get to be a multi-billionaire by throwing your money around.
You know, and I'm starting to think that may be one of the reasons they don't want to get a first-round pick to pay him. Let's get a second-round pick or a third-round pick and work with them, because they're never over the salary cap. They're always under the salary cap. Last year they were $12 million under, and they spent some of that money, but you know, it's unbelievable.
Well,
when
they're
you
always
think about
talking about how they're going to sign other guys longer term, and they're going to use that money, and then they end up with a lot of room on the salary cap. And you know, if your estimated worth is over $4 billion, then you know, I guess if you're rich, people don't get rich by throwing money away.
But I'll tell you, I can't see Belichick sticking around after Brady goes. You know, I can't see that, because if he continues to make the mistakes he's made, even though he's a very good coach, but as a general manager, he's terrible as a general manager. And what is he going to do when Brady goes? Brady's covering up for every mistake.
Well, there's a book coming out next month, which I'm really looking forward to. I think it's called Gridiron Geniuses by Mike Lombardi, the former Patriots assistant. And he's going to profile his relationships with Al Davis, Bill Walsh, and Belichick, and how they think and how they operate, and give you an inside look at their life. Like one preview part that I saw talked about Al Davis, and I think it was what he had for dinner every night. Every night he'd have a filet and a lobster tail. And somebody said, why do you eat the same thing every single day? He says, I don't want to waste time making decisions that don't matter. So obviously Bill Walsh has a wonderful book called The Score Takes Care of Itself, where he talks about the standard of excellence and the whole process that the 49ers went through. He said you needed professionalism from everyone in the organization, whether you're the groundskeeper that puts down the lines or the administrative assistant who's answering the phones. Everyone has to be excellent at their job and do it in a consistent and reproducible way. And certainly that worked for the 49ers. Now, granted, they had incredible players. They had no salary cap. There's a story about Ronnie Lott. I think it was going into the NFC Championship. He had a broken pinky finger, and he wanted to play. And he went to the doctor and said, can I play with the finger broken this way? They said no. And he said, is there anything I could do to play, anything that you could do to make it possible I could play. And they said, yeah, we could amputate your finger. And he said, do it. So he literally had his finger amputated so he could play in the game.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that's a good policy. I'm just saying that's the type of player that Walsh had. So the NFL is going to be interesting. I don't know what, they have some new rules on the kickoff. Particularly, you saw that players who are running up have to be right almost up with the ball. They don't get any head start.
Right.
And so you would think that a lot of teams are going to try to, kick the ball into the end zone.
You have to.
Yeah, right.
You're going to get some good returns.
Right, and then the Patriots have this guy, Carterell Patterson, who's deceptively big. He's like 6'3", 220 and fast. Supposedly not a great route runner, but he's been an electrifying returner, so we'll see what, they're not going to show anything
That's
right
a
now.
good rule change, though.
Yeah.
That special teams is going to be huge.
Right. So that should be interesting. What was a problem in the opening exhibition game, and it's hard to know whether it's going to carry through, is the receivers were not getting much separation. Hogan. Now, granted, they didn't have Gronkowski out there. They didn't have White. So you have
Burkhead.
Yeah, players
out in the slot.
Players that spread the field. So it's not like they had their number one team, but they didn't look good. And Gilmore, who we've been told has been outstanding in camp, was terrible in the opening game.
Yeah, they had him in his zone the first pass. Guy gets a first down in front of him. But, the way that play he made last year in the playoffs was unbelievable.
Right, against
Jacksonville. It was an unbelievable play.
So the early surprises in camp, I guess, are Juwan Bentley, the linebacker from Purdue. They say he's not as fast as they'd like, but they said he always seems to know where the play is going so that he can overcome that with his street smarts. So I don't know if you're going to put him like a Brewski type of player who might not have as much physical attributes as others, but has a certain know-how that makes a difference. And then they have a cornerback, J.C. Jackson, that people are talking about a lot,
Yeah, he was
too.
a free agent.
Right.
But how about Rivers looked okay. He made that first tackle at the line of scrimmage. He's bigger than I thought. He's like 6'4", he looks like.
Yeah, so we'll see. So, it's early.
They're going to be solid. If Brady stays healthy, they're going to have a good year.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Well, you hear some people like, again, Michael Felger saying, that the Patriots could go 10-6 with Hoyer at quarterback, and I'll tell you, that wouldn't happen. Hoyer is not going to be able to cover up mistakes, as you said.
No, with those receivers.
No.
How does he trades Cook because he didn't want to pay him next year, but they still had him under the contract for this year.
Right.
They trade Cook and they get Wynn. All right? So Wynn could turn out to be a great offensive lineman. But you would think to win a Super Bowl, you need Cook this year. Wynn's going to take a couple of years. Hopefully, maybe, they think he might start, but,
Well, Cook's, of course, only played a little bit more than, I think, wasn't in the second quarter that he went out in the Super Bowl. He got a concussion.
Yeah.
So, of course, that can happen to any player at any time.
And then you let Amendola go.
Well,
how stupid is that?
Amendola is getting older, and he had a highly competitive offer, $6 million a year from the Dolphins.
So you give him the $6 million.
Well,
what are you doing with the money?
Well,
what are you going to give? Another guy, you're going to give him $10 million? Every once in a while, Belichick will give out big money to some guy who's never played for them. That's the way he is. They have the extra money. I don't know what they have over. They're probably around $10 million over.
I think, right now they have about $8 million on the salary cap.
No, you have Amendola. Brady loves him. Amendola's, he's the number one receiver in the playoffs the last 2 years for the Patriots.
Well, you know how you free up $5 million if you need $5 million? It's Allen, the backup tight end.
He's getting $5 million. You're not giving Amendola $6 million? In 3 years in a row, he took a pay cut. So you think Belichick would say he took a pay cut 3 years in a row. He's been our best receiver the last 2 years. Brady loves him. He's always getting open in the big games, making big plays. They won the Super Bowl against Atlanta because of him.
Well, I guess Belichick's thing is always get rid of a guy a year too soon than a year too late.
So what do they have now?
Oh, they got nothing right
When
now.
you feel better if Amendola was there?
Yeah, I feel bad. The guy I feel bad for is Malcolm Mitchell, who, it sounds like his knee just is trash. So.
That is too bad because he would have been a good receiver for them.
Right.
He's got some length.
Could catch the ball, got
But
separation.
Deco will be all right, though, I think. I mean, he's 6'3".
Well, they say, right now he's having trouble catching the ball. So I don't know if maybe he's got a minor injury or something.
Well, I hope he's all right. God, about Britt.
Well, we'll switch gears a little bit and talk about the NBA. I guess the big landscape changing events are LeBron to the Lakers. We'll see how that goes. And Kawhi Leonard to Toronto. So Toronto should be a little better if Leonard is healthy. And, it was kind of odd that Leonard got traded to Toronto, and then 3 weeks later he writes a note to the fans of San Antonio and Popovich saying thanks. Like, what, did it take you 3 weeks to make up the note? Or his
Well, he's not happy. Neither party's happy with each other.
No, I don't think so. You're right. They're not happy. There's a lot of interesting things. You've got Tony Parker that goes to Charlotte. So there's a lot of...
He's all done, Parker, though.
Oh, I know. But it's just these, at some point Parker will go back to San Antonio. LeBron will go back to Cleveland. Leonard will go to San Antonio. So all those games are going to create interest for the fans. Carmelo Anthony signed today with Houston, I think it was for $2.4 million, and he's insisting on starting.
Houston, that was a dumb move. That was a dumb move by Houston. How do you pick him up?
He's just on the downside of his career.
He's going to ruin any team, Anthony.
Well, at least the good news was he didn't land on the Celtics.
Oh, yeah. But, getting back to Leonard, I don't know if Toronto, what they're thinking. I mean, they must be thinking they can sign him, which they won't sign him when he becomes a free agent, although they can pay him the max money. So you wonder there, but you're taking a chance letting one of the best offensive players in basketball, DeRozan, go. They're saying because he didn't come through in the playoffs. Well, he went up against LeBron James the last 2 or 3 years.
A lot of teams have not come through against LeBron James over time.
I mean, the thing with Toronto is they have Leonard. People are saying they're the team that's going to give the Celtics the most problem in the East, not Philly. So, but, you're losing DeRozan. DeRozan he's a very good scorer. But then you have Leonard, who's a real good all-around player. But if they lose him after 1 year, you're giving up DeRozan?
Well, in Vegas, they've got the Celtics over and under number at 57.5, which, obviously a lot of that depends on
health.
Exactly, health, injury. Irving is back playing some, but not in full court games right now. Supposedly he had a full course of antibiotics after the hardware was taken out of his infected knee. And then Hayward just published some stuff on his Instagram today showing him going one-on-one against some guy and dunking over him. So Hayward looks like he's pretty fit. The first question I guess, is there's some talk about bringing Horford off the bench. Number one, to keep his minutes down, but also against certain teams anyway, Baines is more physically suited, like Milwaukee.
Philadelphia.
Yeah. So you need the length and the bulk to go up against guys like Embiid.
That was I'm glad they signed them, the Celts. But, you look at Golden State and you look at the Celtics right now, who has more talent from 1 to 12?
Well, yeah, I'd have to say the Celtics. If you look at their second line, theoretically, it's Baines, Morris, Rozier, Smart, who's the other
Tice.
And Tice, yeah. So
then you have Ogilvy.
And those are...
You have the kid from Europe.
Right, so those are that's the backup players. And, I mean, I'm not saying that team by itself would be competitive in the any individual division, but when you consider Horford, I mean, Tatum and Brown are really good. Both of them are really good. Yet they're not playing at the all-star level, which if Irving and Hayward they are legitimate all-stars. So they have 5 potential all-stars starting.
Well, you know the matchups. The Celtics with Golden State. You think Golden State wants to meet the Celtics in the finals? I guarantee halfway through the season, if the Celtics stay healthy, that people are going to say they can't wait for the Golden State-Celtic matchup. And when they play them during the year, if they're both healthy, I mean, who can match up? Who can match up? You got Kyrie, you got Curry. You got Brown, you have Thompson. You have Tatum, you have, what's his name?
Green.
Well, it wouldn't be Green. It would be Green and Horford if they have Green at the 5.
Iguodala.
Iguodala and Tatum. You have Hayward against Durant. Now, people look at that. That would be Hayward and Durant. That's no mismatch. Durant's a better player. But Hayward's smart, good offensively. Durant would have to cover him. He'd have a tough time covering him. And Hayward's a smart defensive player.
Well, what you're going to see this year, the number one prediction I would say is the idea is for how are people going to attack mismatches. So you're always, right now people are switching everything. But if you switch everything, that's going to create some mismatches. A guy like, if you switch Curry onto Jaylen Brown, he's just going to go right by him. He's too physical for him. So that's really going to be the emphasis for teams to create situations to create unusual mismatches. But it should be a terrific basketball season, providing people can stay healthy, which obviously applies to every sport. I've enjoyed being with you tonight. I'm Ron Sen.
And I'm Ralph LaBella, and thank you for watching Let's Talk Sports.